All right, let's dive in. Tonight we are very pleased to have with us again local author and Howell Carnegie Library's own Darci Hannah. Hailing from Chicagoland, Darci is a longtime Howell resident and our library's best and most special staff member. She did not pay me to say that either. When she's not spinning tales of mystery and intrigue fueled by coffee, baking up a storm in her kitchen for her husband and her 3 sons, or even hiking with her lovable furry companions Ripley and Finn, you can find her giving assistance and warm smiles, evident even behind a mask, in the Howell Library's reference department. Darci is the internationally acclaimed author of suspenseful historical fiction and humorous cozy mysteries. The former includes The Exile of Sarah Stevenson, originally published in 2010 and re-released in 2016 by her own independent publishing company, Piffle and Bombast, and The Angel of Blythe Hall, which came out in 2011 from Ballantine Books. She has not one, but 2 cozy mystery series, both chock full of delicious recipes. The Very Cherry Mystery Series began with cherry pies and deadly lies in 2018 and continued with cherry scones and broken bones from 2019, both of which our dear Darci launched here at the Howell Carnegie District Library. You can find more about Darci and her works and sign up for her newsletter on her beautiful website, darcihannah.com. This evening, we're honored to host another book launch, this time virtual, for our favorite cozy mystery author. This is the first book in her new Beacon Bakeshop mystery series, Murder at the Beacon Bakeshop, which was published today by Kensington. Congratulations and welcome, Darci Hannah.
Oh my gosh, how do I follow that opening? I just want to thank you guys too. First of all, thank everybody who is here, who clicked that link and is joining us today. As Brandy said, this is my first virtual book launch. I usually like to have live book launches so we can have food and share that. But I really have to give a shout out to Brandy and Jamie today for setting this up, helping me with my tech. Hopefully you can hear me. Can you all hear me okay? And I'm so excited to tell you about this new book and to hear your questions, try to answer them as best I can. So thank you. Welcome, everybody.
So thank you, Darci. That's fantastic. And thanks again for sharing the celebration of your new book baby's birthday with us. To help celebrate, Darci is generously offering a baking-themed basket to help make the delicious recipes from her book to one lucky person at tonight's program. Each attendee tonight receives 1 entry into the drawing. If you submitted a question for Darci ahead of time, you got an additional entry. We're going to announce the winners of this random prize drawing at the end of the program, so stay tuned. Now, Darci, I just want to say, I was lucky enough to read an advanced copy, oh goodness, virtual background, of the book. As a librarian, I've got great connections, Darci. And I found it delightful with fun, energetic characters, and as with any good cozy mystery series, a great sense of place and community. So first, can you tell us about the series? What's going on with the Murder at the Beacon Bakeshop? By the way, gorgeous cover and great poster.
Oh yeah, first of all, I got a shout out to my family, John, Jim, Dan, Matt, if you are out there, I can't see you. Thank you for this. They surprised me with this giant, it actually lights up, and I could try it for you. Just bear with me, guys. It's gonna be electric here, but I'll do it in a minute. It's up behind my chair. But anyhow, I was so excited to write this series, and I gotta tell you how it started. I had started writing the Very Cherry Mystery Series, which some of you might have read, and I love that series. I'd set it at Cherry Cove, which is in Door County, Wisconsin, a fictitious town. And that is how I cut my teeth on writing cozy mysteries. I never really thought I would write a cozy mystery, but once I wrote that first one, I just fell in love with it. I wanted to do something modern since I had written historical fiction. So I didn't want to do a historical mystery. I wanted them 2 very separate things. So I got 2 books into the Very Cherry Mystery Series, was working on the 3rd book. And that was when the publisher I was with at that time, Midnight Ink, decided to disband their mystery house, which is very sad because it's kind of like you're visiting this town every day. I really loved going to Cherry Cove. So when I sit down at my computer, when I write, for me, that's the joy, is visiting these friends, seeing what they're up to. Sometimes I don't even know what they're up to. So anyhow, I had to transition. I'd gotten a call from my agent, and she said, stop working on that third book. They're not going to publish it. You need to come up with something else. And I had I had a couple weeks to think about that. And I thought, oh, I love this thing so much. I don't know if I could ever come close to writing like, something that I love as much as Cherry Cove. And then I thought, you know what? I live in Michigan. We've been here for about, oh gosh, maybe 17 years now. I love exploring Michigan. I really need to know more about it, but I thought, I'm setting this one in Michigan, and I'm not going to limit myself to just cherries. I want to do all fruits. I loved the baking aspect of the cherry pie series, but let's face it, like I was having a hard time finding cherry delectable baked goods that kind of had a rhyme to them. It was a struggle for me. Anyhow, so I thought, I will try something new. I will set it in Michigan. And that's when I enlisted my husband. I had to coerce him. No, I didn't have to coerce him at all. I said, let's get in the car. Let's drive around Michigan. Let's eat some baked goods and find some beautiful, cozy little villages. And so we drove up the coast, and we love Traverse City. And but there was a little town. And some of you, I should ask this question. I don't know if somebody can, but does anybody recognize that lighthouse? Because that lighthouse is actually modeled off a real Michigan lighthouse. And I don't know, Brandy, can they type in?
You could share it in the chat if you know it. If you want to share it, we'll give you a couple seconds.
But anyhow, so we came to little towns, and I dragged my poor husband up, and my children too, when they were with me. We climbed lots of lighthouse, winding staircases and lighthouses. And so I found this lighthouse, fell in love with it. And I said, I climbed up to the tower with my husband. I looked out and I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine living in a place like this. Oh, did somebody get it?
We have 3 guesses: Point Betsy, Tawaz, if I pronounced that correctly, and Sault Marie.
Point Betsy.
There we go. That was Melanie. Well done, Melanie.
Melanie, woohoo! So yeah, it's the Point Betsy Lighthouse is just gorgeous. So anyhow, once I saw that lighthouse, it all kind of clicked in my head, and that's how it works for me. As I have these ideas, and of course, and not to spoiler alert, but whenever I go into lighthouses, I always talk to the docents, and I always ask them, so is the first keeper still around? Because as we know in Michigan, I think, did we do a haunted lighthouse? We did a haunted lighthouse presentation about it would be 2 years ago now. And just hearing the stories of the lighthouses, the history, and the strange little things that still happen. And people say, oh, here, every night we hear somebody climbing up the stairs, but nobody's there. I love that stuff. And so, and I love lighthouses. So I thought, how Michigan is it to set a series in a lighthouse? Bakery's all me. Sorry about that. And then the town, I modeled off of the town of Frankfort, which is very close to Point Betsy Lighthouse, loosely modeled, and just pulled in little bits of Michigan. So as you read the series, as you go further in the series, I think there's even, there's little shops in the town that are very fun for me to write about. But there's a year-round Christmas store, if that sounds familiar, just crazy things. I like to have a lot of that flavor. So when somebody's going to read this, they're going to get that sense of place. Lake Michigan, beautiful lake, the seashore, or the lake shore. Where am I? I am in a room. The lake shore.
It's an inland sea.
I know.
Darci, that's one of the things I wanted to ask you about, because it does look, one moment. All right, great. There we go. So your inspiration for this, you were touching on that a little bit, that you take it from real life. Many authors do. You've definitely shared with me personally that it's in there, and reading the book, I know there are things from real life in there. So you're talking about Point Betsy, about Frankfurt. What else from the real world, from your life, people, places, and events found their way into the pages of your new novel?
That is so funny. So as some of you might know, as most of you know, I work at this library, and this is like one of those weird things. So I'm working on this. I'm thinking about this this new series I was writing, and I was writing Murder at the Beacon Bakeshop first. And so I'm trying to people my bake shop. I'm trying to figure out, hey, I sort of know what it's like to run a bakery a little bit, but and so we have these adorable pages that work with us. They're younger wit girls. They're, sometimes they're boys too, but they're high school. And so three of them were just so, oh my gosh, we just clicked so much. And so whenever they would be on their shift, they would come and chat with me. And so one day I'm like, oh man, do you guys ever feel like you'd want to work at a bakery? Can I write you in my book? And so I used their real names, use their likenesses, but they agreed, I hope. So Brandy, when she read it, she got it right away. Because she knows these pages I'm talking about. But so that was a very obvious thing that I did. In previous books, I have put my friends in, like the Cherry series. I have a friend, Robin Taylor, and I made her Tay Robinson, switched her names around a little bit. And I have a friend, Jane Boundy, but her daughter's name is Hannah. So I made her Hannah, and she lives by Winthrop Harbor. So her name is Hannah Winthrop in there. And so those are people that I modeled. The characters are not really them, but they're my inspiration. So I just don't want to get in trouble. Like if I usually try to make the characters good and nice. I won't ever murder a friend, but I have drawn, as writers, I think we draw inspiration from everything. And sometimes you're shocked about what inspires you.
We did have a couple of questions about that. That Alma asked about why Michigan was your setting. Is it because you live here, or did you grow up here? What is it beyond? You introduced yourself. You said that you've lived here for a while, but your Cherry series is set in Wisconsin. So why did you pick Michigan for this one?
Yeah, so the Cherry series, when I did that, Wisconsin was a place I went as a kid, the Cherry Cove or Door County, spent a lot of my time up there. So I knew that very well. But I realized that I was living in Michigan, and I wanted to connect more with my local readership as well. I do think Michigan is such a beautiful state. There's so much to write about. And we do have those really cohesive small towns. And cozy mysteries are effective if you have, you create a charming town, peopled with fun people you would want to be in your town. We live in a charming little town too. And so I draw inspiration, but I really wanted to showcase small town Michigan, especially like the Lake Shore and that area up there. So I was just very honored that I could do it, and somebody liked the idea.
It's fantastic. It is great. It's a great little community you have in the book. And one of the characters, Larry, very much wanted to know about, if you could tell us about the dog yanking on the tablecloth pictured on the cover.
Wellington. Yeah, so I love Newfoundlands. The first, nobody knows this, but except for my family, but the first book I wrote was this big, giant, sweeping 18th century historical fiction. And in that book, there's a Black Newfoundlands, the history of them, they're sea dogs. They are search and rescue dogs. They help sailors. Sailors used to have them on ships. And so when I was writing about a lighthouse, I thought, what would be the perfect dog companion for this? My main character is this kind of New Yorker, Wall Street woman. She's always been in control of things. She's had a great career. And I just thought I'd throw chaos into her life by her falling in love with this fat, fuzzy puppy that's just way too big for probably apartment living. But he's perfect for lighthouse living. So I love Newfoundlands. We owned one once, but the drool. And the name Wellington, I was walking my dogs as I do. We meet a lot of dogs. And one day this giant, it was an old English sheepdog, came out of the car, and the owner was like, Wellington. And I'm like, oh, that is the best name for a dog I've ever heard. I mean, Ripley and Finn are great too. But so the dog character was just so easy for me to create because again, it's a passion. And I just knew this dog would just love living by a lighthouse, and he's going to have more lighthouse adventures.
Well, the literary Wellington, he's just adorable. Apparently, according to your son Jim, the real Wellington was terrible and literally tried to kill him. So we'll just move on from that. But speaking of wicked, characters. Uh,
It did not try to kill you, Jem. It knocked you down the stairs with its head. It was a big dog, had a big head, and you bent over. You were feeding its water dish, and it just knocked you off the stairs. Terrible. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Talking about another attempted homicides, or actual homicides, at least fictional though, Cindy was wondering, how did you create such mean women? Those people are wicked. And I must say, I really didn't like them either. So good job creating villains. But where did that come from? You're way too nice to be creating such horrible people.
Oh, isn't that funny? And I don't know, like, yeah, no, I can never go there. And it's even funny, like the idea of, you know, I'll tease my husband. He'll be like, what are you doing right now? I'm like, I'm thinking up murder. Like, so, which is so out of character for me, because I am a pacifist. You know, I love everything, can't kill a fly. But when you start writing these and you start thinking about reasons why somebody would actually want to kill somebody, they have to be either very deranged, they have to be probably narcissistic, because you know they have their needs and their desires supersede anything else that's going on around them, so much so that they would do something like that. Because for all of us, really, when you think of it, murder would take a just incredible leap of faith. So a murderer cannot be nice. And it's fun to kind of, I've always been attracted to characters that, not to give too much away, but kind of straddle that line between like they're good, but they also have a darker side too. And you don't know, I mean, what they're going to do. So sometimes they appear very nice and sweet and whatever, but murder, if somebody's really going to do it, you know, that person, yeah, is evil. So I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep you up at night, and I hope I hope it wasn't too evil.
Well, it just seems like your husband, he's letting everybody know that he's concerned. But John has an excellent sense of humor, as do you, and it comes through in your writing, which is fantastic. We do have another few people who have a great sense of humor. One that have a few questions. One of the love interests for the main character, Lindsay Bakewell, is Rory Campbell. Hunka hunka. So there are a few people that have asked some very appropriate questions that I'm just going to ask all at once, and then you can address. So from Jan, she wants to know, do you really love Ryan Gosling, or is it just a passing fling? Margaret asked, is it true that you envisioned Ryan Gosling as the character Rory? And Barb wants to know, is it true that you've been sending donuts to Ryan Gosling? So now we all need to know what's with Ryan Gosling.
Yes, no kidding. I'm not. No. I was talking about. I have no idea how Ryan Gosling got blown up so much in this library world, but we used him as memes, and so no, he is not Ryan Gosling. That just cracks me up. But yeah, there for a while. There's one year where we just kept sending each other Ryan Gosling memes and just surprising each other. So Ryan is near and dear to our hearts, but no, he is not the inspiration for Rory Campbell. Rory's more of like he's a woodsman. He's a Michigan guy. And he's got, you know, as the series goes on, we'll reveal more about Rory as well. So he's that like kind of mysterious neighbor that Lindsay Bakewell doesn't quite know much about, but she's intrigued. So it's really always fun for me to have, you know, some kind of a love interest, because some cozies don't go there, but I do feel like, what is life without some passion, you know, what in it? So I think it's always fun to keep the reader reading, because what's going to happen with that, you know? So I don't know where the inspiration, I mean, of course my husband, no, but I don't, you know what I mean? So when I write these things, I'm not sure. I just kind of think of like, hey, who would fit really well into this character, this niche, you know? So I really don't ever picture in my head movie stars when I'm writing, because the people I'm creating don't really exist. If that makes sense, but I don't have like pictures of like movie stars and be like, I'm using you. I'm like, but
okay.
If I see somebody that might look like him one day, I would say, hey.
But we can put the Ryan Gosling rumors to rest.
Ryan Gosling.
So that's
good. It is not Ryan.
Well, So there are some things, even though Ryan Gosling isn't in there, as you said, there are things in real life, like the wicked dog Wellington who tries to kill your son, you put into your book. But other things, though, I'm hoping you haven't experienced in real life, and you touched on this a little bit, that you have think about these things, and one wouldn't assume, looking at you and knowing you, that you would. But how you touched on this? How do you go about planning the actual murder for the murder mystery and make it mysterious? And also, I want to know, how gruesome is your search history?
Oh my gosh. Hey, just check my search history at the library. No, that is a weird thing, because so when you write a mystery, for me, my process is I kind of know the people at the beginning, and then I have to know who is going to be the murderer. And I honestly, when I'm writing, I don't know if it comes across, because I know the whole time who the murderer is. And I don't know when I'm writing if I'm fooling you or not. Like, I don't know how effective I am, because I know the ending. And I don't know if that makes sense to you. But so, I will think about the murder probably more than anything else, because I know very little about murder. So I will think about, I have X person, what is their motivation? Why are, who is their target? And so sometimes it's hard for me to come up with that. And I'd like to try to stay away from like the traditional, like, oh, money, jealousy. I try to keep it a little, like maybe more psychological. If that makes sense. Like sometimes in maybe the Beacon Bakeshop, or not the Beacon Bakeshop, but the, I don't know if anybody read Cherry Scones and Broken Bones, but that was that I just had that person pop into my head. And that actually came from, I was watching a movie, and this person stared at I don't want to give too much away, but I actually did. It like struck me, this line in this movie about somebody, the reaction to something that was just, that was like, wow, that's so interesting, because that could be, if you're really, really deep down psychotic, that could be grounds for murder, or a reason for, not grounds for murder, but a reason for murder. So honestly, and the funny thing with this book, when I submitted it to the publisher, the editor read it, and when I do this, I always give him like a 10-page synopsis, and it has to have the ending. And so when the editor read this, he sent back, is like, oh, I didn't see that ending coming. Did you include that ending when you sent your synopsis? So that was the first time anybody had read it. And that made me understand that I did the job I was set out to do. Sometimes,
Wonderful.
like I say, I don't always know I'm doing it, but I hoped that it worked.
Great. And Dana asked if you ever planned the murder and then developed the story around it.
Yeah, that's a really good question, because that is kind of, I think for me, it falls together. I have it planned out in my head, but as I'm writing it, more reasons or more spin-offs, more things come up. Like, I think the character Kennedy, at first I didn't have a best friend, but then as soon as I got to chapter 3 or whatever, I'm like, Lindsay needs a best friend, and she's going to be modern, and she's going to be a little bit trying on her nerves. And so I really enjoyed writing the Kennedy character, and I like those kind of quirky, secondary characters, but they add a lot to the book. So,
and for adding to the book and developing, Jennifer asked about what kind of research you did before your new book. And great question, Jennifer. I like this one. What scene was the hardest for you to write?
What scene was the hardest? Okay, so research for the book, I said, trying to find the setting. And I love reading about lighthouses. So I read a lot up on lighthouses, believe it or not, ghost stories about lighthouses, because if I do put a paranormal element in it, I want it to be kind of believable. I mean, I'm open to the possibility. So I did research on that. And then I did read what is it? I have a book on my desk that scares my husband, but it's like all these ways to murder somebody with poisons, because also you have to and I got it out of the library, and it was one of those books that the library was getting rid of. So but it was really fascinating to read through there and realize that everyday substances can kill you. So there's brutal murders, but sometimes depending on who it is that you want to sneak in there as the murder and try to hide that or be obvious about too. So sometimes it's really fun to have a real obvious murder and then hide it, and then, oh, you were right all along. But I think depending on the person doing the murdering, I think I will find a method that would make sense for them, if that makes sense. So I try to do a lot of research on psychology. Why would this person do that? And what would this person use if they were going to kill somebody? And how would they do it? So, and other than that, like a lot of times I'll be writing, and thank goodness for Google, because I will want to look something up quickly. And I used to read through books and books. Historical fiction was so different. But now I'm just like, and my kids taught me this, because they're like, if I ask them questions, they just say, Google it, look it up yourself, Mom. So it's not nice, but I'm used to like finding like research on like produce up in the area, or when a certain thing is going to be ripening. Just those kind of details I can get pretty well off the internet. Everything else I use books for.
So we've had a lot of questions into, also we're right into your writing process here. What comes first? Do you write for the plot? Do you write for the characters? Do you decide on the location first and then a storyline? Where are you starting, and how do you bring all those disparate parts together and add them in, and the dual timelines and all of that?
Oh, that is a good question. So for me, and every author has their own method. And it's so neat when you talk to different authors. Some authors write scene by scene by scene, random time together. I can't do that. I'm very linear. So for me, I get the setting, I get the scene, because I like that to be a character, and I already have these ideas in my head before I sit down. Where is this person going to live? What is, and then I start formulating the background before I start writing. So I'll do a quick sketch of like Lindsay Bakewell. I wanted her to have a name that kind of related to baking. I had watched the Great British Baking Show. I don't know if anybody else is addicted to it, but I still want to make a Bakewell tart. And so it's a very Englishy sounding name. It also is kind of like, oh, my last name is Bakewell. So it also sounds like somebody who would live maybe in New York. I don't know. But anyhow, it sounds like a name, like a great name for a person who is going to open a bakery. And then we have her background story as why, she does come from a family of bakers as well. So I thought that would be a fun way to get her back to, the place that her ancestors or her family came from, even though she doesn't know much about it. So I got the main character, and believe it or not, this is how I do it. I have loose things, scenes. So I start at the beginning and I write the beginning. I write it just how you read it. It's very, because to me, it's like when I'm writing, it's like watching a movie in my head. And that's how I do it. That's my method.
So you're discovering the story right in the similar way that your reader is discovering the story.
Yeah. And that way for me, I will know, like I'll take a walk with the dogs and I'll say, I was here yesterday. I'd like to get to here, because I kind of know in my head what I need to accomplish that day. And then I sit down and I get maybe a quarter of it done. Well, we start again. But walking, drink a lot of coffee, as we've covered, but B, the walking helps me focus on what I need to do. And so that has been, I think I've always included that in my writing. So that's part of my writing day, is just walking, getting a little headspace, sitting down, and then trying to finish and trying to write.
Yes, trying to find the time to write is always a thing. I'm sure I hear about it from you, that you'd love to do more writing, and we would too, because we love reading your books. But the pandemic has made life interesting for everyone and changed things around in such monumental ways. Amber was wondering how the pandemic and the lockdowns changed your writing process or habits, or did it at all? How did that affect what you were doing
Oh, that's a
during
good
this time?
question, Amber. Well, it threw me at first. I mean, you'd think I mean, this sounds terrible, but I was like, oh wow, I'm at home. I have some time. But we were all home together. So it was just getting, I think I had two sons living at home, my husband, everybody working out of the house. And it was just getting the routine down. But it did allow me to get, really be able to sit down and write. And so I really used it and I really developed. So that was when I started making food videos because I thought, yeah, so that's some of you might know. Um, but that was one of the things I thought I'm gonna, write mysteries, and I do love baking. And I thought, well, why don't I try to share that aspect and learn how to edit and film videos? And it's all very amateur what I do, very, very amateur. I get ideas.
Don't believe her, they're beautiful.
Oh, no, there's suggestions. But it's fun for me to try it. And so that was one thing I did during the pandemic that I would never normally have done, which kind of it kind of made me feel like I was in the bakery a little bit. And that was a lot of fun. So I did more baking, as didn't we all?
Yeah.
But it was, after a while I got tired of the lockdown thing. But we did still try to take walks, and the house got a little dirtier, but it was nice to have that stretch of uninterrupted time.
Yes, the pandemic has given us some horrible things, and it's also given us some not so horrible things.
It's great
time.
Yeah.
We've had a couple more questions about your writing process that I'd want to cover quick before we get to the big one that keeps coming up, which is the baking. So we're about to get there. Do you proofread as you write? Do you research as you write? Do you stop and start? How is your writing? How linear is your writing?
That's a good question. I do proofread. And so my thing is, and this has just happened to me, I think with the Beacon Bakeshop, I've had a lot of family drama, as my husband can tell you. And so one of the things I did that I didn't do for the Cherry books, but this is a different publisher, I did write these synopsises, and I had to think about them, storm through them, and it gives me my framework, which I've never had before. Normally I would just sit down and write. So when I would have to stop I think I had to stop for about a month last year. Yeah, about a month, did not write at all, but I had a book due very shortly. And it was just a weird year like that, because it was a great year. I'd have these stretches of time. So, with that, oh, I'm sorry. What was the
whether you wrote straight through, you proofread as you wrote, or researched as you wrote and stop and start?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Brenda. So with that one, I would proofread. I would, after that month-long break, I had to reread everything, start at the beginning. And I might have been like 150 pages into it, just so I knew what I had done before, because literally it was just a crazy year for me. But thank God for doing that. And so my normal routine, when it's perfect, if everything was perfect, I would sit down, read the chapter I wrote before, and pick up. And sometimes I think when I'm writing at the end and I realize it's dinner time and everybody's waiting for me, I will write really quickly where I want it to go, because I didn't get that chance to put it on paper. So I'll just be like, Rory gets in his car, Wellington steals the fish. I'll just do like little things that way. And I do research as I go. And I think that's a fun thing. I do a little bit here, a little bit there. I think as the life of a writer, like, I'm always researching something and, reading about something. So it's research for me is ongoing. And I don't know where I'm drawing that knowledge from. Like, sometimes I'll read something maybe 5 years ago and I'll remember it and I'll say, this is great. There's hunting in my book, or Rory is a hunter. I don't hunt. I don't know much about it, but I have read things, and so it's like I'm trying to create this character who's very foreign to my life, and that's where some of that comes in. So yeah, so I hope that makes sense. I do proofread as I go, I'm a bad speller. I will say that right now. Thank goodness for spell check.
Well, you're not a published speller, you're a published author. So now, what seems to be at the forefront of everyone's mind, especially if they didn't eat dinner yet, food. So one of the things that I love about cozy mysteries are that there's themes. There's so many themes. You and I have talked about this when you were just starting out on this journey of all the themes. Yours have been food-based, focusing on cherries in your previous series, and now endangering waistlines everywhere by writing about baked goods. So we have a few people who have asked about the recipes. And so just to start us off, Jane wants to know, what's your signature recipe from this book?
Oh, the signature, probably the cherry chocolate chunk cookies. The donut is funny because I had to make donuts for this book. And I thought, we're opening a bake shop. And so you can see the donuts on the cover. And I think whenever you walk into a bake shop, no matter what they do have donuts. It's kind of like a standard. And so I thought it would be really fun to make these gourmet donuts. Has anybody, we're Michiganders, most of us, if not, have you ever been to Sweetwater's Donuts in, oh my goodness. So this is like one of the top 10 places in the country for donuts. It's called Sweetwater's and it's in Battle Creek and Kalamazoo. It is ridiculous. So yeah, Brandy, no, don't go there. So my son put me onto it, and when I go into Chicago to visit family, I stop by and pick them up. But their donuts are like giant. There's like a donut that's like literally the size of a plate, and it's like $2.50. It's cheap, it's big, it's amazing. I don't know how they do it. That was my inspiration for donuts. Now I don't make donuts anywhere near that, and so I would scour cookbooks for recipes, and I would scour the internet for recipes. So I kind of combined like the best of both methods, I thought, for this one. Donuts are not my signature. They're fun to make, but I'm going to say they're a pain. Keeping that oil at the right temperature.
Yes. Well, you do have a video about it. That is a great video, very high production quality, very fun. Check out Darci's YouTube channel and the donut video specifically. I believe Jamie's going to pop those in the chat shortly, so you can have a look, because I watch them. Oh my gosh, I'm a donut fiend. I was salivating. It's very Homer Simpson over here.
Just a little bit about that. It was funny because this is me being so bad at what doing this. So I started out filming it with one of my kids' cameras. The SD card got full. It didn't work. I tried another camera, no batteries, and then I used my cell phone, and then I had to remake the dough because that's the part I didn't catch. So I had to make 2 batches of donuts, and some of them are a little dark in that video. I think I ran out of cherry juice for the cherry glaze, and I put a little red food coloring, and it is just a vibrant, unnatural color. But I think it just all adds to the fun. So. I'm sorry, Brandy, I got you off. There you go.
No, it's fine. I did. The next one is a follow-up question, similar from your son Tim. What is your favorite recipe from your new book?
Well, I love baked goods, but I have to move beyond. I love chicken marsala. That is like one of my favorite dishes. And Jim's girlfriend makes a fabulous one, or fiance, I should say, makes a fabulous one. Chicken marsala, and then it has the garlic mashed potatoes. If you're not going to go with the full blown gluttony sweet bake shop thing, Lindsay, I'm sorry, where am I? Lindsay also makes regular food too. So that is like one of my favorite dinners. If you love mushrooms, give that one a try.
That's interesting. Because I know that you've had mostly desserts as your recipes. So I thought that was interesting to include like a nice entree dinner as a recipe in there. And now I know why, because it's your
I'll try including those more because we'd all love to live on sweets alone, and definitely try the sweets, but sometimes it's nice. Like, so you feel like you're just had too much sugar, and so it's gonna explode.
Well, before we move on from the donuts, I do want to bring up Jane. Jane Boundy has asked, what are the issues with making donuts?
Oh my
She
gosh.
has had issues with recipes, as you know. And she has also given a shout out to your lemon bar recipe.
Oh yeah, Jane, thank you. We will one of the titles I proposed was lemon bars and movie stars, and somebody would die there. But because I love lemon bars, and that was the thing that Jane and I about we would just eat them all day. So thank you for remembering that. Yeah, that's a really great recipe. But so yeah, I was giving Jane a hard time this morning on Facebook. Like, you need to try these donuts, make them, you're gonna love them. Yeast donuts are fun, but they do need to rise. And I made them with the regular, like I think it was like rapid rise. I think I did one with like a really rapid rise yeast, and it rose so fast. It was great. You can put the donut recipe, the yeast ones, you can make it at night, put it in the refrigerator, let it slow rise there, take it out the next morning, and make your donuts for breakfast, which is a great thing. But that second time that I had to do it, because I didn't catch it on film, I just I bought this like really fast rising, rapid rising yeast, and I put it in a warm place, and that baby rose within like an hour. It was like giant. So that batch turned out pretty well. But yeah, and the oil. Watch your oil temperature. It's like 350. Don't let it go too high. But it's fun. You should all try them. Try the donuts. They're delicious.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, Rita had said that your recipes that you include in your books are delightful and delicious. And I agree. Both she and Michelle would like to know which comes first. You kind of touched on this when you said you were scouring cookbooks, but again, it's a sort of chicken and the egg thing here that we're asking. Does the recipe come first and you have the recipe and fit the story around it? Or does the story come first and then you work the recipes into it?
Oh, that's a great question, because donuts I thought when I started this, I thought bake shop, let's do donuts. And it was like as you read the book, it's like opening day, it's a beach theme. She's got, beach themed donuts. They kind of look like life preservers or whatever. So I thought a donut would be fun, but it's funny as I'm writing it and I'm like, oh wow, it's probably time for dinner. And so these writing scene, the food scenes, I credit my agent with it, because when she would read the Cherry series, she'd say, you're writing a food mystery. You need to put food in there. So I'd write a little bit, and then I'd be like, oh wait, it's probably time for dinner. And then I would think, what do I want for dinner tonight? And literally that's.
So is that why there's so many quiches and there's a lot of bacon?
Yeah. Well, what can I make faster? Like what would be a fast meal?
Is there something else I can help you?
Oh, hang on. My watch just, I said
something. Oh, technology, right?
Siri just questioned me.
Sorry.
So anyhow, but that's how a lot of the recipes get in there. And I am so lucky, but my mom is a fabulous baker. I don't know, baking just is something that we like to do, and cooking. And my grandma's a great cook. And so I have a lot of great family recipes. My sister-in-law's a great cook. My kids are, they're really stepping up to the plate. They're blowing me away right now. But so I think, and so like the older traditional meals, I do harken back to those, but there's so many new techniques and new foods and new ways to prepare stuff. So that's a very fine line, and I will try some of those, but I do like to throw in a tried and true comfort meal, because I do think, after you have a sugar buzz, you're going to need something like that. But yeah, so I hope I answered your question. Yes, I prepare, and then they hit me.
Nice. Well, it's interesting to see how this journey is. We've got so many people asking questions about how you do it and how things have worked out for you. Now we're going to touch upon publishing and how the publishing process goes for you. Kimberly asked how easy it was to find a publisher. She has a follow-up question too, is mystery or / romance your favorite genre? So how easy was it to find a publisher, Darci?
So easy. No. You really want to hear my story. So I had started out writing this giant historical fiction. When I finished it, it was about 1,000 pages, which I didn't realize at the time. This was years ago. My kids were little. And I tried to submit that to agents. And I got 100 rejections on that. And what that taught me was that well, writing something that long taught me how to write and research pretty well. 100 rejections taught me how to hone in a good query letter. So, but what the agents were all saying by rejecting me was that, I had to try something different. So that's when I wrote a smaller work of historical fiction. And when I finished, that was The Exile of Sarah Stevenson. I had called it The Antiquarian, bad title, I was told. So they retitled it, but I got 49 rejections. So over 3 years, I got almost 150 rejections. And I just kept I'm like, well, what else am I going to do? But I had to really stick with it because I did feel that when I wrote The Exile of Sarah Stevenson, I think I told my husband, I said, if I'm ever going to get published, this is the book. I don't think I could, do anything differently or better. And so that one, the 50th person, I actually submitted to an agency that was by referral only, and I didn't have a referral. And so somehow they read it, and it was just one of these fluke things. And I got a request for the manuscript, and that is how that journey started. So once I got that deal, and that was with Random House, this was my Ballantine Books, Random House, and a big New York City agent, I was like, yay, I never have to go through that pain again. Well, 2 books later, that was my contract. And then they asked me to do a third standalone. So I was writing this thing. I gave them, they gave me parameters, what they wanted, women's Scottish historical fiction, Yuletide elements, paranormal elements, whatever. They gave me a list of things to do it. And so I'm like, I wove it in, had my pitch, wrote 100 pages, and they ended up not going with it. And that was now I know the elephant in the room that nobody would talk about was I did not sell enough. My books did not sell enough to get me another contract in historical fiction. So nobody could sell. I tried to shop that one out. I got a lot of rejections, probably another like 60 rejections after being published in historical fiction on a historical fiction. But I had a lot more agents reading it. So the agent I was with at the time said, I can't sell what you write right now, but why don't you write something different? Why don't you write a mystery? And so I thought, I was being a little stubborn. It took me a while to get to warm to the idea, but I love reading mysteries. And so I thought, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make it modern, and let's try it. So I did. And I got another, my kids laugh, but I save every rejection I have in a big manila folder. So for each project I'm doing, I probably got another 40 rejections, 50 rejections on the mystery I wrote. And finally I found the agent I'm with, and she contacted me and said, she held it for like 5 months. And and so, like my 2 historical fictions came out, 2010, 2011. Here we are, 2021. So it was a long gap in between where I was really fighting to try to get back. And I don't know why I did it, but I was really fighting to see if I could get back in the industry. So she had gotten the manuscript that was Cherry Pies and Deadly Lies, only I had put it on a golf course. And I set in Cherry Cove, but I told Randy this, and the agent who read it said, she was a cozy mystery agent. She goes, I really like this, but you've done something here that's not, will you be willing to change this? She goes, you put this mystery on a golf course. Golf is a leisure time pursuit, and leisure time pursuits don't sell. So you're going to need a hook. Would you consider changing the setting and getting a hook? And that's how we came up with the Cherry, because I set it in Cherry Cove, Cherry Country over there in Wisconsin as well, just like it is in Traverse City. And once I made those corrections, she could sell it pretty quick. So no, my journey, and please, please, please don't be discouraged about my journey because I'm the poster child for like rejection and perseverance. But so I think for that, it was me just getting smarter about what was being published and how to do that. So now that I kind of have it, when I set out to write the Beacon Bakeshop, I now know the parameters of cozy mystery, and I still get reined in because I still like the historical fiction. Darci pops out, and I try to, do something that pushes it a little bit, and they're like, oh no.
You add some of the history into this book and into the Very Cherry. You've done that, which I appreciate, and I can definitely see your roots there. But I know you've read so many cozy mysteries. You've done your research just by knowing, like, just about the genre itself too, while you were writing that. So that was quite a process for that. But man, I'm seeing it in the chat. We're so glad you persevered, and it's so inspiring. We are getting close to time, so let's just zoom ahead. And what's coming up? What's next? We've had questions about what's the next book coming out. What else are you doing?
Okay, well, God willing, they'll let me keep writing Beacon Bakeshop. I really love this now, so now my heart is into this, and so I will have 3 books at least coming out, and I'm going to fight to have more of that. But so the next book, and this is kind of fun because if you read this book and you enjoy it, you're not going to have too long to wait. We are going to have the second book come out. I think it comes out September 28th, which is a Tuesday. It's really like an October release, but it will come out like, September, and it's called Murder at the Christmas Cookie Bake Off. And I think, this is so exciting to me because I think, Brandy, do you have the cover? I think.
Yes, I was going to say, are we ready?
Sneak peek at the cover.
Okay. All right, are you seeing it okay? Because of course I can't see this.
Oh, it's so cute. It is so cute. And look there's Wellington ready to eat some cookies. So I was just very thrilled. I got that the other day, and I was speechless when I saw it because I thought, wow, they really kind of captured that really well. So this book, the next book will be Christmas Cookies. It's a wacky caper. No, it's fun. And one of the inspirations for this, because I have to, when you do these cozy mysteries, you pitch 3 ideas, your pitch ideas. And one of them was having this cookie, this cookie bake off in the town. And this literally came from, I was Googling like, oh, Christmas cookie caper. Something popped up. I think it was in Sagatuck. And it was like this great little news article, but they did have a Christmas cookie bake off through the town. And each shop was offering a different cookie, and they were going to be judged and whatever. And so these women were stealing. One guy reported that somebody distracted him and stole the cookies, and he called the cops. $20 worth of like his famous shortbread were stolen. And I'm reading this article. I'm like, this is my story. So it really
read the news.
Yeah. So I use that as the inspiration. And if you read it, you will kind of see that coming out. But so that is the next thing coming out. And also,
wonderful.
There's another awesome announcement that I have with my friend Robin Taylor. The Cherry series had gotten canceled, and the rights had come back to me. So we are going to be getting those out between today, the launch of the Beacon Bakeshop, and between the time that the other book will come out. Those books are coming out again with beautiful covers, and we'll be sharing those on Facebook and wherever we can share them. They will be available in ebook first. We don't know if we're going to make the hardcover or the regular handheld book, but we're definitely trying to get those back out there. So if you need some filler to read between the two, and eventually I would love to continue that series as well. So that's still on the back burner. So a lot more cozy mysteries, and probably a historical fiction will come out again as well. So.
Great, Darci. So glad to hear that. I'm a big fan of your book. So
thank you.
Looking forward to that. And I mean, we should talk about where people can get this current book, Murder at the Beacon Bakeshop. We've had a few questions about that. The book came out today. It's available in multiple formats. It's a print paperback, an ebook, and an audio book.
I know.
So happy. The library has a copy on order for our collection. We should have it processed and ready, available if people want to check it out with their How Library card. Darci, how else can people get a copy of your book?
We have a darling bookstore in Brighton called Two Dandelions Books, and I met the owners the other day, and they are selling this book too. So as our local bookseller, it's available everywhere books are sold. But if you really want to support local, the Two Dandelions link is on my website as well.
I think Jamie's going to share it in the chat too, Darc.
And if you do it 2 dandelions, I can go over there and sign them for you. She will ship them. I think they're just very excited about it. But and like we said, the audiobook, I think we're getting the ebook and audiobook at the library on our e-collection as well.
Yes.
So
Yes, you
we're
can
excited.
do a digital download. Oh, it's so great. And I'm very glad to hear about the 2 dandelions for the signed copies. Becky had attended both of your previous book launches here. Thanks for supporting Darci in the library, Becky. And she was hoping to purchase the new book and get it signed by you. So she can just go to that link that Jamie just shared, and that those books will be signed by you that get ordered through 2 dandelions.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I'll run over there tomorrow and say, hey, start signing up.
Wonderful. Okay, so now before we wrap up for this evening, let's talk about some fabulous prizes. I know that Jamie is working on getting the random winners picked. Darci, can you show us what people can win while we're waiting to hear from Jamie?
Okay, so we're giving away 3 books today with different levels of of grandeur, I should say. So the first one is Beacon Bakeshop. Win a book, and then just this little thing that talks about all kinds of cozies. So more cozies to come. So that is the third prize giveaway today. Does Jamie generated that one?
Have you seen anything from Jamie in your chat, Darci?
Hey guys, I have it right here, and I'm gonna walk it over to Darci so that she can tell you. Okay?
Thank you so much, Jamie. Fantastic. Yep. We are all in the library, safely socially distanced.
Yes, we are. We're all
so
different places. So the second prize, again, you get wonderful Beacon Bakeshop, your copy signed, and you get Lee Linnell coffee bakery blends. This is the kind of coffee that they would serve at the Beacon Bakeshop. Hang on a second. I'll be right back.
We have locked Darci in a room, but she can get out. Do not fear for Darci. Thank you all so much for attending tonight. We're very excited for this and for supporting the library and Darci and her wonderful,
I got him here. Okay, so the winner of the book is MD Hibley. MD Hib. That her writing is so beautiful. Hibley. I have to I have to have Jamie read it. It's like 2 B's and a Y. Hibley.
We will reach out to
Hibby. Okay. Yay. Second place, which is the coffee and the book, is Barbara. And I don't know her last name. And first place for the Beacon Bakeshop baking basket. Now, this has everything you need but the butter, flour, sugar to make the donuts, including the mixing bowl. So that goes to Kathleen Langhorst.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we'll be like sending you emails. Beautiful. It's glorious. That's glorious.
Fantastic. Darci, I think we're gonna wrap up here. Thank you so much for celebrating your new book's release with us this evening. Can you remind us before we head out where to find you online?
Oh, guys, and I want to thank you too before we have to shut this down. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining me and for supporting me and for reading these books. I want to entertain you. That's my goal. So I'm getting all choked up that you're here, but
oh, Darci,
drink some coffee. But thank you so much. You can find me at www.darcihannah.com. That's my blog and my website, Facebook and Instagram. And I do have a YouTube channel, but I try to share those usually on my blog and Facebook. But it means the world to me that you're here, and it means the world to me to share this with you from Howell Carnegie District Library. So thank you so much for coming.
Yes, and again, follow Darci's website, her blog, for all of her culinary escapades and adventures with her adorable furry companions, as well as updates on her writing. We have a link in the chat. If you could take a few minutes to tell us what you thought about tonight's program on the short evaluation that Jamie just shared there, we'd very much appreciate it. we can bring you more great programs like this. I mean, there is the one and only Darci Hannah, but we'll have her back. Let us know. And visit our website, www.howelllibrary.org, to discover more upcoming events from the Howell Carnegie District Library. Thank you again, Darci. Thank you
guys.
all.
Thank you, Brandy.
Thank you, everyone.
Coming.
Have a great, great evening.
You too. Happy reading, happy baking.